What's going on, guys? Joel's back with another reasoning sesh where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures, uncovering meanings glossed over by translations, really cutting to the core of the metaphysical applications of these ancient texts, and applying it practically to situations in our present day. And today, I'm talking about the Red Sea time that we as a society are going through right now.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
But before I begin, I gotta say, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe for more, because as we accelerate and cross this threshold, this momentum is just building up and propelling us forward into a new way of doing things, a new paradigm where we literally manifest the kingdom of heaven in this earth plane and live out Earth 2.0, the world we know we've come here to experience, that utopia which we don't even deserve anything less than. So stay tuned for more, and as you assimilate this very message into your life, you will realize you are living out a life beyond your wildest dreams. Even though all of this manipulation and constraints are being pushed on us, that pressure is only creating the diamond. And once we cross this Red Sea, we will see literally those new potentials all around us. And that brings me right into today's text, where I'm reading from the 14th chapter of the book of Shmot, or Exodus, where the children of Israel have just left Egypt after the 10 plagues and are now trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's chariots. And reading right from the text, it says that when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid, and the children of Israel cried out unto Yahweh. And they said unto Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore have you dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell you in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness. So they're looking at their physical circumstances and they're saying, it's impossible for us to get out of this situation. We're trapped. On one side is the Red Sea, and behind us is Pharaoh's chariots. They're going to kill us, and it's going to be worse for us to die this way than if we were just living on in slavery and oppression and manipulation and control and fear and all of that other stuff. And of course, paralleled with our present day, right? But Moses said unto the people, fear you not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will see them again no more forever. Sounds like a pretty bold promise. Yahweh shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. So the battle is Yahweh's. That justice is set in the causal realm because of the very seed sown by the manipulators and the liars and the cheaters and everything they've been doing to keep us bogged down in a mindset of fear and panic, isolated from our fellow man, fearing false fears on behalf of our own lives and ignoring the whole of society as it crumbles right on our watch. Then Yahweh says to Moses, lift you up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his hosts, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. Every vehicle, every strong method that the kingdom of darkness is using to manipulate us and chase us is going to be shown justice in the face of Yahweh. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the angel of Elohim, which went before the camp of Israel, removed, and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face, and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and it was a cloud and darkness to them. But it gave light by night to these, the Israelites, so that the one came not near the other all the night. So the very thing that's leading and comforting us, the children of light, is going to be confusion and darkness to the kingdom of darkness. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry, and the waters were divided. Now, of course, we're used to the image of Charlton Heston stretching out his rod and the sea splitting in, basically a moment. But this wind blew all night. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now the question is, why would Pharaoh even go into the middle of the sea? The answer is that he actually thought that the sea split for him. He actually considered himself a son of Ra, and because of that, he said that the sea parted on behalf of his own power. But all those 10 plagues that proceeded in the land of Egypt were against each and every one of their deities. And the final deity to go down was actually the house of Pharaoh, the office of the son of Ra, who was just a man actually posing with divine lineage. But guess what? He had no power of his own. And look at what happens next. It came to pass in the morning watch, that's the 4th watch in the morning, right before dawn, Yahweh looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of cloud, and troubled the host of Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, so that they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for Yahweh fights for them against the Egyptians. They were driving their chariots heavily through mud. It doesn't say anything about them riding through dry land. It says that their wheels were bogged down in the muck. And that's Yahweh. That's the system of justice being played out here. And Yahweh said unto Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it. And Yahweh overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And of course, mainstream academia likes to discredit this account, but there's been archaeologists that have actually gone and visited sites in the Red Sea, especially around the Gulf of Aqaba, and actually found ancient chariot wheels and other remnants of Pharaoh's army on the bed of the sea.
On the first dive, Ron found chariot wheels preserved by the coral which had attached to it. He found an axle with portions of each wheel still present. These chariot wheels were very difficult to see and recognize because they are covered in coral, and the portions that were not covered have disintegrated. In February of 1988, he found this gold 4-spoke chariot wheel in the same general area. There is no coral on the main part of the wheel because coral doesn't attach to gold, only around the hub area where some wood was exposed when it came off the chariot.
All of this is out there for those with eyes to seek it out and a heart to receive the truth. But the verse out of all of this that I really want to drive home is this one here, where Moses said unto the people, Fear not. No matter what evil is coming against you, do not be afraid, because that's the first key that the kingdom of darkness has in your own mind. And once that evil takes root in your consciousness, you'll basically end up manifesting that narrative in your own experience. Stand still, be still, and see the salvation of Yahweh. See divine justice play itself out, which he will show you today. For the Egyptians, and that word Egyptians actually comes from the Hebrew word that actually means constraints or restrictions, referring by association to the banks of the Nile River, but actually can apply to any kind of oppression that we're feeling that restrains us and keeps us held down under a system of bondage. The Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will see them again no more forever. All this kind of manipulation that's coming against us, we have already crossed the threshold where we have passed through the Red Sea. We have passed through this trial by water, and now the very people that are pursuing us are going to be consumed by the very restraints that they've tried to impose against us and constrain us between their advancing army and the waters, the emotions, that manipulation of our own inner feelings against ourselves. That is going to be used against them, because Yahweh will meet divine justice out. Yahweh will fight for us, and all we'll have to do is hold our peace. We just have to step back and look and see the salvation that comes from Yahweh, source, divine creator. So even though this has been a rather trying time, we got to realize that Source is making diamonds out of us. And once we're on the other side of all of this, we're going to realize that what we've developed during this time is actually the very thing that we needed to move forward as sovereigns in the new paradigm that Source is bringing to pass in our world. as Earth 2.0, as the kingdom of heaven being downloaded into this physical dimension. That is the new potential that we will literally be manifesting from. And we have to have that kind of groundwork laid as a foundation before we move forward in that authority, in that space, and actually create from that higher awareness. So tap in and know that Source has your back, and Source has this all planned out. And as long as you're tapped in with Source, Source will literally bring you through this and make you see that victory. And we are in such a great time to be alive, because as we witness this unfolding, it's literally going to be the greatest form of judgment coming against the kingdom of darkness. And this will really be a fascinating story to tell the children and the grandchildren in future generations. So I love you guys. I'll check you in another reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape. Salaam. Namaste. Shalom. And reading from the text, it says, when Pharaoh drew near. And reading from the text, it says, when Pharaoh drew near. And reading right from the text, it says that when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel